Welcome to Espresso with Erin and Sarit, where today we are actually not drinking espresso, which I just thought about, and it's kind of funny. But today we are going to answer a few questions that we've had submitted, including but not limited to, is cardio really good for fat loss? How do I stop binge eating? And why is it harder to run outside than on the treadmill? So we're going to start with, how do I stop binge eating?
So, how do I stop binge eating? Okay.
It's a great question, by the way.
It is a great question. And I want to share with you the fact that I used to struggle, both of us actually used to struggle with binge eating for a long time. And while I'll be happy to give you the steps, the first thing that we have to appreciate is the fact that going from being a binge eater to a non-binge eater is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. Like, you can make that decision in your mind overnight. However, from a habitual standpoint, it's gonna take a little bit of time, and you have to be okay with that. So for anybody who's watching this, regardless of what it is that you want to become, know that it's a process and there's going to be failures along the way. Now, failures are just indication of the opportunity that things have to be tweaked. Failures do not mean that things are not working for you. It's just a matter, the next time you fail, okay, what can you assess from this? I will tell you, my becoming of not being a binge eater, having been a binge eater, is the next time that I failed, once I had made up my mind that I'm ready to be a different person. Because you can want your body to change, you can want to stop doing this, but if you're not willing and ready to change, like, your ways, then none of it is going to matter. So when I made up my mind that, okay, I am willing to change my ways, every time that I failed, I asked myself, what did I learn from this? And what can I do about it next time? And failures became meaningful because failures actually turned into lessons of what works, what doesn't work, what sets me up for success better, what can I do to make sure that it happens less, what things trigger it to make it happen more often. And you build greater awareness, and over time, once you've made up your mind that this is true, that you are willing to change your ways, and once you have all that data, you're able to make better decisions in the long run. And I'll tell you, this is why I do not regret any of the 10 years that I struggled, because I've gained so much wisdom that now I know so much about myself that, if I see something in the rear view mirror, I'm like, don't look in that direction, keep looking this way, because you know what happens when you're looking at that angle. I'm just giving you examples.
I just want to bring clarity to that example. You don't drive by staring in your rear view mirror. You glance at your rear view mirror to make sure everything's all good. You glance, great. But your sole focus is forward. Otherwise, if you drove forward while staring at your rear view mirror, you will crash into something.
Yeah. So how do you stop? The first thing that you do, you have to make up your mind that you are willing to change your ways, especially if this is something that you struggled with for a long time, because we can want the weight to drop all day long. We can want to stop binge eating, but the question is, am I willing to get outside of my comfort zone by changing my ways? If so, then one thing to accept is the fact that failure is just a part of the process. And with every single failure, you have to confront what is it that you did? Like, what did I eat? How much did I eat? Most people wouldn't even want to like confront that because they're scared to confront how bad things are. Now, you cannot make things better if you don't know how bad something is. Okay. So once you've made up your mind, which is step one, step two is you want to confront, the ugly truth or the hard truth or whatever it may be. Okay. So I ate 19 pieces of brownie. Okay. Shit. That sucked. So the next question that you're going to do is what can I do better next time? So step number 3 would be incremental shifts. Okay. And this is why we always talk about progress, not perfection. So in this case, an incremental shift will be, well, okay, the next time you eat brownies, why don't you go for 18 pieces rather than 19? Would you be willing to do that? Okay, so
But Sarit,
incremental.
that's not really going to help me lose weight.
Do you want to do it the surefire way or do you want to do it fast?
I said that on purpose because we don't know if the goal is weight loss. We can only assume that it's weight loss. But why do you want to stop binge eating in the first place? And if the goal is to stop binge eating to lose weight, then which one are you focusing on? Because if you want to stop binge eating, you need to focus on the structure that will get you there. If you want to just lose weight, then what you need to do to stop binge eating is not going to make you confident that that's what you need to do to lose weight, because it's not going to feel big enough. It's not going to feel hard enough. But if something is too hard, we often don't follow through. So it can't be too hard. Can I go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to recap, Sarit, be willing to change. Actually looked up the definition of want versus will. I think this is very important. Want, have a desire to possess or do something, wish for. Will, expressing the future tense as if it's going to happen. Expressing inevitable events. Inevitable events. Will is it's going to happen. Want is I wish that it will happen. I hope that it will happen.
Will is taking full responsibility. Want is not taking full responsibility.
Right. The second thing, you're not a binge eater. If you identify as a binge eater, good luck. We don't identify it. I don't walk around saying I am a non-binge eater. Like I'm not absorbing an identity of something that I do or don't do. An identity is what you are, not actions that you take. So if you're struggling with binge eating, I only mentioned this because I heard you say it, but it's so easy for it to roll off the tongue, right? Like, oh, I'm a binge eater. No. Oh, I'm an addict. No. Hold on. You struggle with addiction. You struggle with binge eating. You struggle with something. As soon as you absorb it as who you are, you cannot escape the actions that correlate with that identity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So start seeing yourself as the person that you want to become. Your actions will follow suit. Then we get to tactical. Then we get to, what did you say? Incremental shifts. Then we get to like progressive changes. So it's more like, instead of eating 20 pieces of candy, I eat 19. I do it every day for a whole week. Okay, great. When I can be consistent, then I go to 18. If I can do that every day for a whole week, good. Then I can be consistent at 17, then 16, then 15, then 14. Then maybe I go from 14 to 12 because now I've proven to myself I can be consistent. Then maybe I go from 12 to 10. Maybe I go from 10 to 6. Just depending on how well you have proven to yourself that you can progress through these kind of stages. The other thing that I want to say is take it one day at a time. It is one day at a time. That is it. When you struggle with being like addicted to something, you have to take it one day at a time. And what I had to tell myself was, if I can make it through tonight, after dinner, before bed was always the moment for me. If I can get to bed without binge eating, and I can wake up in the morning knowing that I won, I can believe in myself a little bit more to try again the next day also. And I would tell myself that if I did succeed genuinely, then I could binge eat the next night. I could eat whatever I wanted. Only if I made it through this night. Because it's funny thing happens when you wake up the next day, it's tomorrow when we always start, is that you have a new motivation for that day. So let that day worry about itself. You just focus on today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Cool.
love it. I love it. It's a process. The becoming is a process.
Mm-hmm. Question 2. Cardio is good for, let's see what the actual question was. Cardio is good for, oh man. All right, it's okay. I'm gonna phrase it as best as I can remember. Cardio is good for like your blood circulation and heart health and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really good for torching fat?
Torching.
I know, that was the exact.
Sounds like you watched a lot of ads.
Torching.
Torching. Powerful word. So when it comes to, if you really want to talk about torching fat, the best way to torch fat is by doing high intensity exercises.
Like if you want to torch, but you're going to torch your mind, you're going to torch your body, you're going to torch, your muscles are going to burn, all of it's going to be on fire, all of it. So
let's look at exercise in terms of intensity. Okay.
Well, okay, there's 2 things though here. So I want to separate the 2 things that are actually involved in this question. One is melting fat, getting rid of fat, burning fat. The other one is cardiovascular exercise. And the reason I want to separate these 2 is because no amount of exercise alone is going to help you lose fat.
Yes.
So there's more involved in the fat torching.
By the way, if you want help with learning how to melt the fat, how can they connect with us? What would be the best way to connect with us? Just email support@erinandsarit.com and let's have a chat. Now, most people think that when it comes to melting fat, that the emphasis needs to be on exercising. When the reality is that is the smallest piece to the pie. As we're recording this video, we're literally coming out of the 5-day challenge that we just wrapped up, and that's one of the things that we talked about there. Exercise is a magnifier for everything. So for example, when your lifestyle and nutrition habits are in check and you add exercise to the top of the pyramid, then it's already going to magnify your lifestyle and your nutritional habits. Now, if exercise is the foundation and your, lifestyle and thought habits and nutrition habits are secondary, then you're going to fall short. And I believe that a lot of people who exercise often, once they hit that, call it the long drawn plateau of I lost the initial 10 pounds, but I feel like I've been rolling on the same weight for the last who knows how many years. It's because you're probably heavily relying on exercise and you haven't tapped into thought habits, lifestyle, and nutrition habits. And those carry over way more than exercise ever will. Now, let's talk about cardio. Does cardio help to melt fat? And the answer is yes. Now, another question that you're probably asking is cardio the most effective way to melt fat? And the answer is it depends.
What is cardio? What is cardio short for?
Cardiovascular. So,
Which states the intention of the type of exercise.
however, because of the bodybuilding industry, like you see all these girls like just rolling on the Stepmaster for literally like 2 hours on end, and because they've been doing it for years, their waistline is smaller, so they will preach to you about cardio. Now, do know that cardio helps to melt fat. The reality is that any exercise helps to melt fat. Now, let's talk about exercise physiology real quick in terms of intensity. So, intense workout on a scale of 1 to 10, like right now, the level of intensity that Erin and I are exuding by talking to you is very low. It's probably like 1 to 3.
1 to 3 what?
Like effort, in terms of effort. Cardio, on the other hand, is like cardio is in everything because your heart always beats and your lungs are always pumping. However, from a training perspective, the cardio region, and what we mean when we say cardio, is steady state. You're talking at about 50 to 60% intensity. So let me ask you this. If you were to go from either 1 to 3 all day, sitting on the couch, sitting on the chair, driving your car, to a 5 to 6, which is, going for a walk, doing the elliptical, rowing a little bit, biking, whatever you want it to be, are you doing a better than job? I want to ask you guys who are watching us live, are you doing a better than job when you've taken yourself to a level of 5 to 6 from a 1 to 3? You do not need to be, like a brain surgeon in order for you to answer yes. That's the reality. Now, listen, at least 70% of Americans do not even exercise. More than 60% of people who have gym membership don't even use it. So, this is why we answered the question with it depends, because it really depends on the type of person. For most people, especially if they're inactive, I would recommend to them cardio, because if your heart is used to pumping at a 1 to 3, and I'm taking you 5 to now 5 to 6, I've already taken you outside of your comfort zone. But the reality is that if you want to melt more fat and increase the efficiency of it, then the 50 to 60% ain't enough. Okay, so then we go to the higher intensity steady state, which is like 70 to 80%. That's like, doing a marathon versus doing a marathon and running fast. That's like taking yourself from running a 12-minute mile to a 7-minute mile. Will you be burning more fat in the process? Sure, because you're exerting more energy. Now, here is something that we need to know once we get to the, 75%, 80% plus ranges, because they're more intense, we're also burning more muscle. Okay. And that's why it requires more replenishing. That's why after, you do a workout with weights, you'll hear people say, like, have your protein, because you are burning more muscle at the same time. However, in order for your muscles to be rebuilt, we have to break them down. So, for anybody who's been, let's say your regular mode of exercise is the cardio region, and you want to step up your game to the next level, then you need to start going beyond that 50, 60%. And this is why, like, when you go through, let's say you try out our Fitscription program, right? Which is like our all things fitness hub. We recommend that you start out with the burn zone because the level of intensity is higher than you just going on the elliptical. However, we also understand that it's not for everybody. So if you find yourself watching or listening to this conversation and you're like, well, if I'm being honest, I've lived most of my life at a 1 to 3. Okay, then, why don't you start by going for like a 30 or 45-minute walk? Okay, taking yourself from an average of a 2 to a 5, you're already making a positive difference. Okay, now I'll tell you, if you're living on a 1 to 3, forget the aesthetics right now. Let's talk about your health. If you're living at a 1 to 3, you're in danger, man. So let's make your heart more efficient so that you can actually live longer. Okay. I wish people were taught these things in school, you guys. I really do.
You use two words interchangeably, so I just want to I want to bring clarity because you used burning muscle and breaking down muscle. And I just want to make sure that you guys have clarity. The only way your body will actually burn muscle, which means when you burn something, what happens to it? It disintegrates, it goes away. There's a difference between burning and breaking down. When you break down a bed frame, you still have all the pieces.
I like that.
But it's in a different form, right? So when you do 100 barbell back squats for time, you will significantly break down muscles, primarily in your lower body. That doesn't mean that they've disintegrated. That means they need to be rebuilt like a bed frame if you take it apart. If you're burning something and it disintegrates and it's obliterated and it goes away, which is what we want to do with fat, right? We're not like, oh, I want to break down my fat. We're like, I want to get rid of it. Muscle will burn. It will go away only if you are burning more energy than you are taking in and you are not consuming enough protein in the same process. Okay, so here's what I want to explain. Because if we're talking about fat loss, and it's kind of different than just cardio in general. Cardio or any kind of exercise or physical activity can help with the, burning of fat or getting rid of fat. But what's more important to consider if we're talking about fat loss is if we look at it from just an overall big picture, we have energy in, energy out. We have energy in, energy out. And then there's also the quality of energy. Okay. A car, energy in, gasoline, energy out. I don't know what happens. The car utilizes it, right? And that gasoline is decreasing as the car is using it. And then we refill it and then we use it and we refill it and we use it. Okay. Energy in, energy out. Now, there's also the quality of energy, which is what type of fuel am I putting in my car for it to be the most efficient? Am I eating 20 grams of protein from a fake type of meat? Or am I eating 20 grams of protein, like a highly processed fake type of pretend meat? Or am I eating 20 grams of protein from, fish, like wild caught fish? Those two things are going to act very differently in your body, and they will contribute to the amount of fat that you lose. The energy in, energy out is if I'm eating, I'm putting energy in. If I'm alive, energy is going out. We are burning energy. We'll call energy as calories, guys. Okay. That's how we measure it. So if I'm just alive, I'm sitting here right now, I'm talking to you, I'm exerting energy doing that. My heart is pumping blood through my body to send oxygen and release carbon dioxide. And there are processes happening in my hormones. And I have to use energy or burn calories just to be alive. So if I am consuming less than what I'm expending, if I'm taking in less than what's going out, I will lose fat, assuming that the quality of that is good and it's not extreme on either end. Extreme meaning I'm not eating enough for my body to trust me to burn the calories, right? Or I'm eating too much. Okay. Now, we don't need an exact number. What we need to focus on is I need to exercise and move my body, and I need to clean up the quality of my food, kind of like we were talking about with the struggle with binge eating. I need to clean up the quality of my food step by step by step, not necessarily all at one time, and I will lose fat. Done deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
So hold on, one more thing. So we can get into more to like sprints or like high intensity interval training versus steady state versus weightlifting. Still burning calories, versus walking, right? And depending on where you're at, like Sarit said, it depends. Where are you starting from? For some people, going for a 30-minute walk 3 days a week is going to be much better than what has been going on. For some people, like maybe, your body is so used to doing a 3K or a 5K run because that's what you do like regularly and that's your only mode of exercise or something, you will want to switch it up. I would just encourage you to switch it up. Just vary the type of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are breathing heavy, you are taking in more oxygen and you are burning more energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose fat. Because if you're putting all of that back in you, or if you're putting a crappy variety of food back in you that's highly processed and your body doesn't like it, you still might struggle with fat loss, regardless of the exercise that you do. That's why I think it's important to separate the two. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah. And I want to add, one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, can we drop the link for the 2-week free trial of the Fitscription?
I will put it somewhere. I don't know what it is.
Got it. So let's say if you currently live your life on average, like we went on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of intensity. If you're like at a 1 or a 2, just challenge yourself to start going for at least a 20-minute walk every single day. If you cannot commit to a 20-minute walk every single day, we have way bigger problems that we need to solve.
That's a will issue.
Yeah. And maybe mechanical issue of how can we fit it in, right? However, it leads to a bigger problem. Now,
no, when you will something, you fit it in.
Truth. I like that. Now, let's say you've been the type of person who, goes on the elliptical for like an hour a day, or like Erin said, does the 5K runs as your exercise. Like, is it better than nothing? Sure. Now, if you know that you've got, like bigger, better body goals, let's say, something that we hear a lot is, I want to get more toned. Basically, what that means is you want your muscular definition to express itself more boldly, then we need to start upping up your intensity. Okay. And there are different ways we can do that. That's why I wanted to drop the link for the 2-week free trial of our Fitscription, which is all things fitness hub. And I would recommend that you get started with the Rise Above and the Burn Zone workouts, because those are high intensity, constantly varied compound movements. So, it is higher intensity, and also from a kinesthetic skill standpoint, which cardio does.
What does that mean, kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic. What is how do you define kinesiology? The art of movement?
It's like, no, kinesthetic is like body. It's body.
Yeah, like learning how to move. Like we do not learn how to move. We were born to move, but we do not learn how to move. And just like everything in life, use it or lose it. So if you are not, moving throughout the day, incorporating all movement patterns at different intensities, you haven't adapted. So, from a physical freedom standpoint, you're limiting yourself, and that's why running alone is not enough. I don't care how many calories you burn on the elliptical. It's not enough from an adaptation standpoint and from an evolutionary standpoint, because your body was meant to do more than just be on the elliptical. That's just purely like, okay, let me melt some fat. Like it's a good basis to start on, but it will not take you very far beyond that. So Erin's going to drop the link for the 2 weeks, 2-week free trial of the Fitscription, which is our things.
If you're not already in it, or you haven't ever been exposed to it before, there's that.
Yeah, give it a shot. Cool.
Okay, so we'll do one more. We'll do one more question. We have, why is it harder, on the topic of cardio, why is it harder to run outside than it is on a treadmill? And you know what? If I may take this one.
Yeah.
I think the answer is simple, but usually not things that we think about regularly. So I think it's easier, but it's not. Running outside is harder than on a treadmill in one way, but not in another way. So it depends on how you look at it. Physically, you will have a slower pace outside than you could have on the treadmill with the same amount of energy exerted. Let me tell you why. When you're running outside, it is powered by you. When you are running on a treadmill, the ground is moving underneath you, and all you have to do is move your legs and not fall. Okay? So you don't have to expend as much energy to run the same distance as you would outside. But I would argue running on a treadmill is harder because there's nothing cool to look at usually. That's not always the case. When we went to Puerto Rico, there was a beautiful view to look at when we were running on the treadmills. However, when you go outside, it's a little bit more entertaining. So from a mental standpoint, like you can look at things and you can like maybe distract yourself. I'm not a huge fan of running by any means. And Sarit and Pito are trying to get me to do a stupid long run. And I would do it because I'm terrified of it. But I'll tell you that I get more enjoyment running outside because I can try to distract myself with what's going on outside, or birds, or looking at trees, or thinking. Whereas when I'm on a treadmill, mentally, it's tougher for me because it's usually not so entertaining.
Yeah. I want to see if I can present it to you also in a way that makes sense from a force distribution standpoint. What it really comes down to is force distribution.
You're trying to get all scientific on them.
Yeah, I am. Oh, okay. Hold on.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Do you need me to tell a joke, or are we almost finished?
Okay, so I don't know if this diagram would make sense, but really what it comes down to is force distribution. And Erin said it really well. Whether we like it or not, treadmill or not, gravity is always acting upon us. That's just a law of nature. Now, when you also have the treadmill, while you have gravity, pulling you down, you're also being propelled by the treadmill. And also, something else to note about the treadmills is that there are shock absorbers. Okay, so even the force of gravity is being, mitigated to some degree. Meanwhile,
Buffered.
when you're on the ground, you're working against the force of gravity, number one, and you're also initiating the force of propelling you, where yes, you're still initiating the force of propelling yourself when you're on the treadmill, while at the same time, because of the shock absorbers and also because you have a moving belt, it is simpler to move in that direction versus a literally like you are just powering through everything.
If you guys really want a challenge and you want to run on a treadmill, find a true runner or a true form. Is that what it's called? True form treadmill?
True form,
true runner. That will be harder than running outside and on a treadmill.
So yeah, those treadmills were designed.
It's the ones that are like have a little curve shape.
Yeah, they were designed to actually simulate a similar force to you running on the ground, and that's why when you get on a true form, the pace that you will have per mile is going to be a lot greater than, oh, let me just like go all the way up and see how fast I can go for 1 mile.
Yeah. So,
yeah, one more thing, let's talk about who would we recommend a treadmill to and who would we recommend the ground to. Now, for one, like Erin said, when you are, running outside, you are dealing with the elements. So, if it's winter by you and it's really cold out, it gives you that mental toughness element because you're dealing with the elements. Like you don't have to do that when you're indoors, right? Now, also with all the new treadmills, you have entertainment, because looking at the same screen over and over again is really boring. Looking at nature is a lot,
it's usually not nature. It's usually CNN or some nonsense, Real Housewives or.
Yeah. And then depending on whatever joint injuries you have, you may find benefit in the treadmill because, like I said, the shock absorbers can really help. Something to know is that every time that you run, you're putting 3 times the amount of impact on your joints. So now, why do I say that? Because let's say you've got a bunch of weight to lose and you're at the start of your weight loss journey. I would recommend that you limit the impact of your joints by lowering the impact of the activity and go for a longer walk rather than a run, rather than saying, okay, well, the shock absorbers are going to help, so let me just like run on this body.
Or even an uphill walk.
Yeah. It's all about the long-term game and how are you setting your body up for success beyond just the, instant gratification of I lost some weight. Because listen, once you start living a healthy, an active lifestyle, you want to keep doing it. And that's why it's really important that we take care of our joints. That's why it's really important that, we learn how to move our body in a certain way so that it can continue to render to us for a longer period of time rather than just burning it out. What you put in is what you get out with regards to your thoughts, with regards to your food, with regards to your exercise, with regards to anything.
Yeah. And so I would say, honestly, at the end of the day, it comes down to what can you be more consistent with? So we went on a tangent of why is it harder to run outside than on a treadmill, but hopefully that is helpful and inspiring. And thank you for your questions. If you have them, you can submit them on a form that is in our main public Facebook group, Erin and Sarit. Or you can just even email us at support@erinandsarit.com. I feel like we should make an email for questions. Anywho, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a great week.